Good evening. Whoa. Good evening. How's everybody doing? Great to be learning with you on a Wednesday, Yom Revi'i. Let's light up the darkness. Healthy flame. Who's in the house? Melissa in Great Neck, Indiana, Shandor in the Bronx, Joe in the Inland Empire, Yehud in South Carolina, Guy in Ohio, Belle in Texas, Paul in the Great Northwest, Bella in Florida, Nancy in North Carolina, Tom in Pennsylvania, Lucy in Minnesota, Sharon in New Jersey, and Aoife in Florida, Marie in Freeport, and Ella in Southern California. Welcome, everybody. You may have heard Passover is around the corner. Lots of prep going on in Jewish homes these days as we clear out all the chametz. Have to do a search through every room. We'll do the final search tomorrow night. And then the burning of the chametz on Friday morning. Interesting, a little bit interesting this year because Passover begins Saturday night, right after Shabbos. So we can't burn the chametz during Shabbos. And in fact, we have to have a meal on Shabbos when chametz is still permitted. But if you'll recall, when we were studying Pesachim and the laws of Pesach, so you can't eat chametz after the morning, right? But you want to have a Shabbos meal. So it has some challenges. So I was asked today to commit to be one of the guys who will show up for sure on time Saturday morning. Our minyan normally starts at 9 a.m. on Saturdays. This week, 7 a.m., so that we can get through all of the Shabbos morning davening, praying, and then have the Shabbos meal quite early. That would include, making a motzi over bread, which we'll probably eat outside, so that there's no chance of, chametz coming inside the house. These are all some of these particularities. Also, normally on Friday, we would be having Tainis Bechorim, the fast of the firstborn, which recalling that the firstborn of Egypt were slain, but the angel of death, right, passed over the homes of the Jews because we put a marking on the doorposts of our house. And so that was, a gift to the firstborn of Israel, so to speak. And remembering that, there's a fast of the firstborn, but this is a minor fast, and you can get out of it, right? So unlike the fast of Esther, for example, which we all do, the fast of the firstborn, right? And I'm a firstborn. Not, my younger brother would not be obligated in that fast. But you can get out of that fast if you attend a siyum. So I apologize. It is definitely on me that we can't be making a siyum. If we were on schedule, it would work out quite well. We could have made a siyum tomorrow morning. But you can also just attend somebody else's siyum. So somebody will be making a siyum in shul tomorrow morning. And then we celebrate with him. And it could be a siyum on anything. It doesn't have to be a tractate of the Talmud. It could be something else. But so always somebody is making sure that they're making a siyum on the morning of the fast of the firstborn. We celebrate with him, then we eat something, and then the fast is called off, so to speak. We're excused, right? We're excused from that fast. So that's some of the stuff that's going on these days. Our rabbi said no regular matzah until after Shabbos. Exactly right. Exactly right. We can't have the matzah that we're obligated to eat on the first night of Passover, which will be Saturday night. We can't eat matzah until then. So there's just a lot of particularities that make eating between now and the meal of the first Seder Saturday night somewhat complicated. Okay, let's get into it. Our daf today is page 100 here in Tractate Sanhedrin, the 24th volume of the Talmud, continuing our discussion of Mishnah number 1 here in chapter 11. Generally, the world to come. All Israel has a share in the world has a portion in the world to come, with some exceptions. So we spent a lot of time learning about the world to come and when it would come and what it would be like and how long it would last. We've talked about the difference between resurrection of the dead and the Messianic age and the world of souls. But the Mishna also said that certain people would not have a share in the world to come. And so that it would include, for example, Menashe, King Menashe Melech, who was a king of the southern kingdom of Judea, and who led the people astray for the first 22 years of his reign. Yesterday we learned, why he started to go astray. It started with some simple skepticism, and then it, got worse and worse. And then not only was he a sinner, but he was leading and commanding the nation to sin with him. And that was a very terrible sin. Even though he made a tshuva, he came back to God and was trying to atone for his sins for 33 years. Still, since he was a king who led the whole nation astray, right? It wasn't just his own sins. He multiplied his sins many millionfold. Big problem for him. But also we're learning about some other kinds of behaviors that could lead to a person losing their share in the world to come if they don't atone for those misdeeds, if they go to their death having not atoned for those deeds. Some deeds like Menashe's, and it's not all opinions, but according to some opinions, so terrible that he can't overcome that even with his atonement. But for pretty much everyone else, there's some deeds that are just horrific, but for the most part, just simple kinds of transgressions, even the ones that we're talking about here, that would cause you to lose your share in the world to come, like denying that the Torah is of divine origin. Well, if you become a penitent of that and say, no, I was wrong, then you would not lose your share in the world to come. Okay. So now on page 100a, pretty near the top. The Gemara relates, Rabbi Yirmiyah sat before Rabbi Zera, and he sat and said, the Holy One, blessed be he, will cause a river to emerge from the Holy of Holies, and alongside it all sorts of delicacies will grow. Here we're talking about the Messianic age. God will build the third temple, right? The temple of Mashiach. And from it, a stream will emerge, originating apparently in the Holy of Holies, but it will go out the gates of the temple and kind of water the land, a miraculous stream flowing from the temple on the Temple Mount and out and down the hill. As it is stated from Ezekiel 47:12, And the river upon its bank on this side and on that side shall grow every tree for food, whose leaf shall not wither, neither shall its fruit fall. It shall bring forth new fruit every month, because their waters emerged from the sanctuary. And then its fruit shall be for food, and its leaf for medicine. We'll talk more about that. But so there'll be this miraculous stream coming out of the third temple, and there'll be miraculous growth of fruit and leafy medicines along the banks of that miraculous stream. So a certain elder said to Rabbi Yirmiyah, after he spoke this before Rabbi Zera, a certain elder said to Rabbi Yirmiyah, "Well done." And so Rabbi Yochanan said, "Well done." So Rabbi Yirmiyah said to Rabbi Zera, "Does a statement of that sort, when one is not a Torah scholar, when one who is not a Torah scholar says to a sage that his statement is correct, seem like the irreverence typical of an atypical?" In other words, this guy who made the compliment, he was an elder, but not a Torah scholar. So somebody who's, his own learning is just at a much, much lower level, even if he's aged, complimenting a Torah scholar on getting his teaching right, well done. Is this a little bit presumptuous, is what Rabbi Yirmiyah is asking Rabbi Zera. So Rabbi Zera said to him, "What are you talking about? But isn't he supporting your statement? He meant no disrespect, right? Don't be so sensitive. He's complimenting you. Take it as a compliment. Rather, if you heard that at times supporting the statement of a sage is irreverent, this is what you heard," meaning this would be the circumstances where such a compliment would actually be a form of irreverence. "And it is like that in which Rabbi Yochanan sat and taught. The Holy One, blessed be He, is destined to bring precious stones and jewels that are 30 by 30 cubits. So that would be 45 feet by 45 feet. These are large gems. And He, meaning God, will bore in them an opening 10 cubits wide by 20 cubits high, and place them to serve as the gates of Jerusalem." In other words, in the Messianic age, God will create gates for Jerusalem that are, the entire gate will be made out of gemstone. As it is stated, "And I will make your pinnacles of rubies and your gates of carbuncles." Isaiah 54:12. Well, a certain student mocked Rabbi Yochanan and said, "Now at present, we do not find precious stones comparable in size to the egg of a palm dove. Will we find stones as large as those that you describe? This is just, it's way too big. It's hyperbolic," says the student, and doubting his master, Rabbi Yochanan. Well, sometime later, that student's ship set sail at sea, and he saw, how did he see this while he was at sea? Not explained, but for some reason he was granted a vision, and he saw the ministering angels cutting precious stones of the size that Rabbi Yochanan had described. And he said to the angels, "For whom are these stones?" And the angels said to him, "The Holy One, blessed be He, is destined to place them at the gates of Jerusalem." When the student returned, now I've heard elsewhere, my rabbi told this story, and I believe Rabbi Kalmanson said that the student had some kind of a near-death experience. And that's why he was granted, this vision of the angels cutting these kinds of stones, these kinds of enormous stones. I believe also sometimes this story is told a little bit differently in terms of the size of waves. But at any rate, the point is that the student of Rabbi Yochanan, who was skeptical and sort of mocked his teacher for saying something that sounded so extreme, then was granted a vision to see, indeed, that they are preparing stones of this size to be the gates of Jerusalem in the Messianic age. So, when the student returned, he found Rabbi Yochanan, who was sitting and teaching, and the student said to him, "My teacher, teach, and it is fitting for you to teach, just as you said with regard to the precious stones So I saw. Well, Rabbi Yochanan said to him, good for nothing. If you did not see it, you would not believe it? You are one who mocks the statements of the sages. Rabbi Yochanan directed his eyes toward him in anger and rendered him a pile of bones. Some would say this was literal and that the burning gaze of a sage will actually incinerate a person. But most would say that it was a penetrating gaze, that let the student understand exactly, the nature of his disrespect. And he felt the guilt that he appropriately should feel for having made such a statement. The Gemara raises an objection from a Baraisa to the statement of Rabbi Yochanan that the gates will be 20 cubits high. The sages engage in a dispute concerning the interpretation of the verse from Leviticus 26:13, and I made you go upright, ko memiyut. Now, Rabbi Meir says that in the end of days, people will be 200 cubits tall. Right? So people will be 150 feet high, 150 feet tall. And this is the equivalent of twice the height of Adam, the first man, who was 100 cubits tall. I'm sorry, so these people will be 200 cubits? Wait, now I made you. Yeah, 200 cubits. So that people will be 300 feet tall in Messianic age, and this is twice the height of Adam Harishon, right? Adam and Eve, they were 150 feet tall, according to this view. So Rabbi Yehuda says people will be 100 cubits tall, corresponding to the height of the sanctuary and its walls, as it is stated, for our sons are plants grown up in their youth, our daughters are cornerstones carved in the fashion of a palace, from Psalm 144, indicating that the sons and daughters will be 100 cubits tall, the height of the sanctuary. If the people are that tall, how will they enter gates 20 cubits high? Now, this sounds kind of surprising to our ear, but actually we've had a teaching elsewhere that the original Adam and Eve, right before they fell from the Garden of Eden and were ejected and would have to live the way we live, and earning their bread by the sweat of their brow, the original Adam and Eve did not live in this earthly world, right? The Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, was a spiritual place, right? They were different kinds of beings before they were ejected from Eden. And so according to one view, they were, so large that, they would take up the night sky, right? You would measure them in astronomical distances, literally astronomical distances. And why not, right? Why not? If they were a different order of being, created by God, to occupy heavenly realms, it's like whatever their size is, it's of a different magnitude, it's of a different scale. And when we render measurements, we're really, maybe these are precise measurements, but maybe what the sages are trying to get across is how different they were. Then what we're being told is that this world in the Messianic age, contrary to the view of Shmuel, who said it's going to be largely like this world, except that the nation of Israel will not be subject, to the tyranny of other nations, but otherwise will be pretty normal physically. According to this view, the Messianic age will share some of these qualities with those supernal worlds. We will see ourselves as souls, right? And souls are, very different. A soul, unbound from its body, and maybe the bodies of the humans, this whole physical world will expand, to operate more like the scale of the original Adam and Eve. And the Gemara answers when Rabbi Yochanan says that the openings of, so the point is, if people are 100 cubits or 150 or 200 cubits tall, how are they going to walk through gates of Jerusalem where we just heard that the openings would be 20 cubits tall? And the Gemara answers, when Rabbi Yochanan says that the openings would be 20 cubits high, he is referring to the windows through which wind enters. The gates through which people walk will extend considerably higher. Apropos the river that will emerge from the Holy of Holies, that we started the daf with, the Gemara asks, what is the meaning of the phrase, and its leaf for medicine, right? So this miraculous stream will emerge from the sanctuary on the Temple Mount and flow down into Jerusalem and beyond, and this miraculous stream will be bordered by miraculous fruit trees and leafy plants that provide medicine. So apropos that river, the Gemara asks, what is the meaning of the phrase, and its leaf for medicine, literufa? So Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avudimi and Rav Chizda disagree on this. One says this is an abbreviation for the phrase to unlock the mouth, lehatir peh, that is above, i.e. the leaf heals the mute. This leaf will heal people who are mute. And the other one says that is the abbreviation, but it means to unlock the mouth. It is that abbreviation, but what it means is to unlock the mouth that is below. So this is a euphemism for healing the womb of a barren woman. It was also stated that other sages engaged in a dispute concerning this matter. Chizkiah says that the reference is to unlock the mouth of mutes, and Bar Kappara says that the reference is to unlock the mouth of barren women. Rabbi Yochanan says the reference is to actual medicine. And the Gemara asks, according to that opinion, what is the meaning of the term for medicine, literufa? So Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani says it is an abbreviation meaning to beautify the countenance, letor panim, of the keepers of the mouth, peh, i.e. the sages who labored with their mouths to study Torah in this world. Right, the sages who were learning all day long were learning orally in an oral tradition, so it's a labor of the mouth. Rabbi Yehuda, son of Rabbi Shimon, taught for anyone who blackens his face while toiling over matters of Torah in this world, the Holy One, blessed be He, shines His brightness in the world to come. As it is stated, his locks are curly, black as a raven, from the Song of Songs, and thereafter it is written, his countenance is like Lebanon, excellent as the cedars, also Song of Songs. That's 5:11, the first verse, and 5:15, the second. And this is followed by, his palate is like sweets, from Song of Song 5:16. So one who engages in sweets, i.e. Torah study, in this world, until he is blackened, black as a raven, he is privileged to shining brightness in the world to come. Rabbi Tanchum, the son of Rabbi Hanilai, says, with regard to anyone who starves himself over matters of Torah in this world, the Holy One, blessed be He, satisfies him in the world to come. As it is stated, your judgments are like the great deep, from Psalm 36, indicating that God is exacting with the righteous and does not reward them in this world. And it is stated thereafter, they are abundantly satisfied with the plenty of your house, and you feed them drink of the river of your pleasures. Right? Meaning that the righteous will be rewarded in the world to come. When Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, and in fact, when the righteous suffer in this world, that too is a blessing to them, because no one is sinless, completely sinless. So when the righteous suffer in this world, they're having all of the punishment that they will ever have. They're getting through it already in this world. When they arrive in the world to come, it's just utter reward and bliss. They don't need any further refinement because of the suffering they went through in this world. When Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, he said, the Holy One, blessed be He, will give each and every righteous person his handful. As it is stated, Psalm 68, blessed be the Lord who day by day bears our burden. God is our salvation, Selah. So Abaye said to him, and is it possible to say so, that the Holy One, blessed be He, will give him his handful? Whose handful? God's handful? What does it mean? God's hand is unlimited. What would it mean that God gives his handful? But wasn't it already stated? Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand and meted out heaven with the span and comprehended the dust of the earth in a measure, from Isaiah 40 verse 12. And if the span of the Holy One, blessed be He, is as great as the heavens, how can a person receive a handful from the Holy One, blessed be He? So Rav Dimi said, what is the reason that you are not familiar with matters of Agadah? As they say in the West, Eretz Yisrael, in the name of Rava Bar Mari, the Holy One, blessed be He, will give every righteous person 310 worlds, as it is stated, to bequeath to those who love me, meaning God speaking, those who love me, substance, yesh, and I will fill their treasuries. So in terms of numerical value, the word yesh, spelled yud shin, is 310, indicating that God grants to the righteous a full measure. What is a full measure? 310 worlds. In a related matter, it is taught that, Rabbi Meir says, in accordance with the measure that a person metes out for others, the heavenly court metes out for him. To the extent that we are generous with others, heaven will be generous with us. As it is written, in full measure, besasea, when you send her away, do you contend with her? Isaiah 27:8. So the term besasea is interpreted as besasea, besea sea, meaning that one receives a measure. We usually say sa, but it's sea, commensurate with the measure besea that he meets out. So Rabbi Yehoshua said to Rabbi Meir, and is it possible to say that if a person gives his handful, right, if I give a human handful to a pauper in this world, that the Holy One, blessed be He, will give to me or gives to that person God's handful, his handful in the world to come? But isn't it written, and meted out heaven with the span, from Isaiah 40 verse 12 that we read above? So he was asking, how can one receive so bountiful a reward? And Rabbi Meir answered him, and you do not say so. Which of God's attributes is greater? Is the attribute of reward greater, or is the attribute of punishment greater? Right? God has an attribute of mercy, right, of loving kindness, and God has an attribute of justice, strict justice. Which attribute is stronger, so to speak? We always learn that God's attribute of mercy, of loving kindness, is greater than his attribute of justice, because he wants it to be that way. Now we're on page 100b. So you must say that the attribute of reward is greater than the attribute of punishment. As with regard to the attribute of reward, it is written, from Psalm 78, he commanded the clouds from above and opened the doors of heaven and rained upon them manna to eat, right? When we were in the wilderness, he gave us manna with a free hand, right? Opening the windows and doors of heaven. He opened the doors of heaven and rained manna. And in Genesis 7:11, when God is opening the heavens to bring the flood, right, and destroy mankind, it says, and the windows of the heavens were open, right? So when he's raining reward, manna, God is opening the doors of heaven. When God is sending the flood out of heaven to destroy mankind, he opens the windows, right? So punishment comes through the windows, reward comes through the doors. What's larger? The doors. With regard to the attribute of punishment, it is written, and they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men who have rebelled against me, meaning God, for their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they shall be an abhorrence to all flesh. Isaiah 66:24. The Gemara asks, is it not so that when a person extends his finger into the fire in this world, he's immediately burned? So how then can one withstand the fire of Gehenna, which is never extinguished? Rather, just as the Holy One, blessed be He, provides strength to the wicked to receive their punishment, so too the Holy One, blessed be He, provides strength to the righteous to receive their reward, his handful. Right? The fires of Gehenna are intense fires, but people go there to be refined before they, move on out of Gehenna. The vast majority of people will leave Gehenna having been refined and then have their reward in the world to come. Why are they not consumed by the fires of Gehenna? Because God strengthens them to be able to receive that punishment, but survive and be able to withstand the fires of Gehenna. And likewise, when it's time for us to receive our reward, if it's such an overwhelming reward that we would not be able to receive it in this world, nevertheless, in the world to come, God will strengthen us, so to speak, to be able to receive that tremendous reward. The Mishna teaches that Rabbi Akiva says also, back to who does not have a place in the world to come, as spelled out in our Mishnah. Here, Mishnah number 1 in chapter 11. So that Mishnah taught that Rabbi Akiva says, also one who reads external literature has no share in the world to come. Are we talking about somebody who reads mystery novels? He's going to lose his place in the world to come? No, we are not. We're talking about heretical literature. The sages taught in a baraisa, this is a reference to reading books of heretics. Rav Yosef says, it is also prohibited to read the book of Ben Sira due to its problematic content. So the book of Ben Sira was written during the Second Temple period, and this book is not part of the Hebrew Bible, though the sages debated whether to include it or not. And when there was the Septuagint made, a very early translation of the Tanakh, of the Hebrew Bible, it was included. It was not canonized. It is not part of the Hebrew Bible, but for a short time, they considered keeping it in. And so there are non-Jewish Bibles that sometimes include the book of Ben Sira. But the sages did look to that book as a place to harvest teachings, as it were, that are mentioned here and in other places of the Gemara. But there's some confusion because there are sort of two versions of the book of Ben Sira. One of them, which was written all in Hebrew, and is the one that almost made it into the Bible, and there's a lot of important material there. And there was another book of Ben Sira which mixes Aramaic and Hebrew, and in which a bunch of kind of folkloric nonsense also crept in. And that sort of gave the book of Ben Sira overall a bit of a bad name, right? So that's the background for this discussion. Right, so the Rav Yosef says it is also prohibited to read from the book of Ben Sira. But Abaye says to Rav Yosef, right, he's going to say, why? Now, Abaye is the student of Rav Yosef, but they have a great relationship, and Abaye can ask his master questions. So Abaye says to Rav Yosef, what is the reason that it is prohibited to read the book of Ben Sira? If we say that it is prohibited due to the fact that Ben Sira wrote in it, do not flay the skin of the fish from its ear so that the skin does not go to ruin, but rather roast it on the fire and eat with it 2 loaves of bread, and you believe this to be nonsense, well, that should not be sufficient reason to say that reading from the book of Ben Sira is prohibited and could even cause you to lose your place in the world to come. If your difficulty is from the literal meaning of this idea where, Ben Sira advises one how to skin a fish so that it will be preserved, if your difficulty is from its literal meaning, well, that does not pose a difficulty, as in the Torah, God wrote, you shall not destroy its trees, in Deuteronomy 20, verse 19. It is prohibited to destroy both trees and fish skin arbitrarily. Right? God says you can't, when you conquer a city, you can't cut down its trees. The only trees that were permitted to destroy are if it's, first of all, if it was ever used in idolatry, then yes, absolutely cut it down and destroy it. And certainly you can cut down trees that you need for constructive purposes, like, building houses, making paper, whatever, or just to clear a place to build a house. Yes, of course you can cut down trees for that. But to cut them arbitrarily for the sake of destroying them, that is a sin. That is prohibited. And so maybe Ben Sira is saying something similar with regard to fish skin. If your difficulty is not from the surface meaning about this passage about, how you skin a fish, but rather you have a homiletic interpretation, right? That this is actually a metaphor for something else, and that Ben Sira is teaching us proper conduct. This is a good teaching, meaning that a man should not engage in sexual intercourse in an atypical manner, meaning anal intercourse, with his wife, right? We've learned elsewhere that is permitted. It is permitted. But here, Ben Sira and Abaye apparently is advising, well, don't do that. Why? Because it causes the wife discomfort. If it doesn't cause her discomfort and it's something she'd like to do, it is certainly permitted. But it's not something that a husband should demand if she doesn't want to do it. Good advice. Rather, perhaps the book poses a difficulty because it is written there, a daughter is for her father false treasure. What does this mean? you have a child, you're so happy, but it's bad that she's a daughter. No, it's wonderful to have a daughter, and you're going to love your daughter so much. Why is she false treasure? Because she's going to cause you a lot of worry. What does this mean? A daughter is for her father false treasure. Why? Due to fear for her, that he will not sleep at night. When she's a minor, he is afraid that she'll be seduced. When she's a young woman, he's afraid that she will engage in licentiousness. When she has reached her adulthood, he's afraid that she will not marry. Once she's married, he worries about his daughter that she won't have children. Once she grows old, he's going to worry about her that she will engage in witchcraft. Right? So this is a teaching from Ben Sira. Perhaps you believe that one should not say this to the father of daughters. Well, didn't the sages also say it with regard to women? They said it is impossible for the world to exist without males and without females. Nevertheless, happy is one whose children are males, and woe unto him whose children are females. Not because there's something wrong with women, but just, they're more vulnerable, and a father will worry about his daughters. So rather, perhaps the book poses a difficulty. The book of Ben Sira poses a difficulty because it is written there, do not introduce anxiety into your heart, as anxiety has killed mighty men. So that's in Ben Sira 14:1 and 30:29. But didn't Solomon already say a very similar teaching in Proverbs? Anxiety in a man's heart dejects him. And Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi interpret the term homiletically, and they read it as yesichena, instead of yashchena, meaning one says that it means he shall remove it, yesichena, from his mind, and that will ease his anxiety. And the other one says he shall tell it, yesichena, to others, and that will ease his anxiety, right? If you're worried, find somebody you can talk it through with. Or if you're worried, find a way not to worry. Just stop thinking about it. Obviously easier said than done. But at any rate, the advice seems to be solid advice in the book of Ben Sira. Why would you say it's a prohibited book, a heretical book? So perhaps your issue with the book of Ben Sira is that it is written there, prevent the multitudes from inside your house, and do not bring everyone into your house. At Ben Sira 11:37. Okay, but didn't Rebbe also say it, as it is taught in a Baraisa, that Rebbe says a person should never have many friends inside his house. As it is stated from Proverbs 18:24, there are friends that one has to his own detriment, as through his association with them, he will become weak and be ruined. And so if you have too many friends in your house, some of them are going to be, this harmful sort. So that seems like good advice from Ben Sira. So rather, perhaps the book, if there is a difficulty with this book, it is because it is written there, a sparse bearded man is clever. A thick bearded man is a fool. One who blows on his cup is not thirsty. One who said, with what will I eat bread? Take the bread from him. One who has a passage in his beard, the entire world is unable to overcome him. So Abaye suggests, perhaps it is due to all this nonsense that it is not appropriate to read this book. And Rav Yosef says, even though there are passages in the book that are inappropriate, we teach the superior matters that are in it, even in public. A good wife is a good gift. She will be given unto the bosom of a God-fearing man, from Ben Sira 26:3. A bad wife is like tsaras for her husband. What is his remedy? Chase her out of his house, and he will be healed from his tsaras. A beautiful wife, and this really means spiritually beautiful, happy is her husband, the number of his days is doubled. Due to his happiness, it is as though his life is twice as long. Avert your eyes from a woman of grace, lest you be trapped in her snare. Right here, grace means somebody, who is seductive and comely, but will lead you on the path to ruin. Now, we also teach what it says there, avert your eyes from a woman of grace, lest you be trapped in her snare. Turn not to her husband to mix wine and strong drink with him, as many have been corrupted by the beauty of the beautiful woman, and mighty are all her fatalities, from Ben Sira 9:9. Many are the wounds of a peddler, Ben Sira 11:36, which in this context is referring to those who accustom others to matters of forbidden sexual relations. Right? Either we're talking about a pimp, or we're just talking about somebody who is, just convincing others that, oh no, it's fine, you can go engage in that lewd behavior, or here, why don't you buy these products that are very useful, when you're gonna go fool around with your girlfriend, type of thing, and have relations outside of marriage. Well, anyone who eggs on others to engage in licentious behaviors, this person himself, that's a big sin, and he's in a world of trouble. Prevent the multitudes from inside your house, and do not bring everyone into your house. From Ben Sira 11:37, let many be those who greet you. Reveal your secrets to 1 in 1,000. Nice way to express a very wise piece of counsel, information on a need-to-know basis. So nice way to put that here. Reveal your secrets to 1 in 1,000. From she who lies in your bosom, guard the openings of your mouth. You don't have to tell your spouse everything. Grieve not about tomorrow's trouble, because you know not what a day may bring. Wonderful advice, right? Don't worry about things that haven't happened yet. Just like we advise people, don't count your chickens before they hatch, right? Don't count on, great things happening tomorrow. They may not materialize. But also don't count on terrible things happening tomorrow. They may not materialize, and you would have worried for nothing. So grieve not about tomorrow's trouble, because you know not what the day may bring. Perhaps tomorrow you won't even be alive, and you will no longer be. Right? Perhaps tomorrow you will no longer be, and one will have worried about a world that is not his. The verse states, all the days of the poor are terrible. That's Proverbs 15:15. The book of Ben Sira says, also the nights are terrible, as then the poor person worries. The poor person's roof is among the lowest roofs in the city, and in the elevation of the hills is his vineyard at the highest point, as those are the lowest quality and consequently the least expensive places for each. So from the rain on the roofs of the entire city, water will flow down to his roof, the poor person's roof, and dampen it. And the soil of his vineyard will be eroded by the rain and swept down to the other, more expensive property vineyards. Right? So it's tough to be poor. The poor suffer every which way because they can't afford, better quality housing. More goes wrong with the houses in which they live. So, it's tough to be poor, and it's tougher every day. The Gemara provides a mnemonic for the statements that follow. So now we're leaving behind what we were saying about the book of Ben Sira. Is it a heretical work or not? Seems like it contains lots of wonderful advice and good teachings. But what we're concerned about is that other book of Ben Sira that includes a lot of nonsense. And just the idea that at the end of the day, the book of Ben Sira, even the proper book of Ben Sira that was written in Hebrew, is not a book of the Bible. So if people would read it and quote it as if it were a book of the Bible, that would be a heretical position. Okay, now we're going to have some other teachings from Zera, Rava, Meharshia, Hanina, Tovia, which is referring to Rabbi Hanina, who spoke of a good wife, so Tova, Yanai, Yafa, Yochanan, Merachem, which is referring to Rabbi Yochanan, who spoke of one who is compassionate, and Yehoshua Mekatzer, which is referring to Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi, who spoke of one who is intolerant, to Ato Ketzar. Okay, that was just a series of reminders of what's coming up, mnemonics, to help us remember. Now, Rabbi Zera says that Rav says, what is the meaning of that which is written, all the days of the poor are terrible, and for the good-hearted it is always a feast, from Proverbs 15:15. So all the days of the poor are terrible. This actually refers to masters of the Talmud, who invest constant effort in their study and encounter endless difficulties and questions. And for the good-hearted, it is always a feast. These are the masters of the Mishna, who study only halachic conclusions and encounter no difficulties, right? So, a wonderful way to think of this, right? The top Torah scholars, who never stop learning and who have the greatest breadth and depth of knowledge, why would we call them poor? Metaphorically, they should be the most wealthy. but they're called the poor because they're aware of all the difficulties and contradictions that they're always trying to resolve. Whereas people who are Torah scholars but are operating at a lower level, right, just focusing on the Mishnah, not on the difficulties of the Gemara, those questions have been answered, and so they are considered rich. Rava says that the opposite is true. And this is what Rav Mecharshia said in the name of Rava. What is the meaning of that which is written? One who quarries stones shall be saddened by them, and he who chops wood will be warmed by it. One who quarries stones shall be saddened by them. These are the masters of the Mishnah, as they invest effort, but they are unable to benefit from that effort, as they do not reach the halakhic conclusions that are in the Gemara. And he who chops wood shall be warmed by it. These are the masters of the Talmud, who invest considerable effort and benefit from it as they reach the halakhic conclusions. Rabbi Hanina says, all the days of the poor are terrible. This is referring to one who has a bad wife. And for the good-hearted, it is always a feast. This is referring to one who has a good wife. Rabbi Yanai says, all the days of the poor are terrible. This is referring to one who is delicate, istenis, i.e. one who is sensitive to repulsive items. And for the good-hearted, it is always a feast. This is referring to one who is broad-minded, da'ato yafe, i.e. he is not particular and he will eat anything. Life is much better for him. He's not so sensitive and delicate. I'm almost done. Questions or comments, please get them in now. Rabbi Yochanan says, all the days of the poor are terrible. This is referring to one who is compassionate, merachem, as he always senses the suffering in the world, and he is constantly anxious about their lot. And for the good-hearted, it is always a feast. This is referring to one who is cruel and indifferent to the suffering of the world. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi says all the days of the poor are terrible. This is referring to one who is intolerant, da'ato ketzara, of others acting against his will. And for the good-hearted, it is always a feast. This is referring to one who is tolerant and accepts the actions of others. And Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi says with regard to the verse, all the days of the poor are terrible, but aren't there Shabbatot and festivals when he rests and eats festive meals? Well, this can be explained in accordance with the statement of Shmuel. As Shmuel says, a change in routine in terms of eating and rest causes the onset of an intestinal ailment. Due to the dramatic deviation on Shabbos from the poor person's routine, he can actually suffer. That brings us to the top of 101A, and that is where we will continue tomorrow. I'm going to take some questions, but just a reminder about the schedule. Tomorrow, Thursday, we'll have class at the regular time, 6 p.m. Pacific. Friday, we'll have class at the regular time, noon Pacific. Then we'll go into Shabbos, and Shabbos will go right into the first 2 days of Passover. So we will not have class on Saturday night. We will not have class on Sunday evening, and we won't have class on Monday evening either. So we'll have class Thursday and then Friday at noon, and then the next class will be on Tuesday at the regular time, 6 p.m. Pacific. Okay. Tom, was that student like the wicked son? I guess the student of Rabbi Yochanan who, complimented him on telling the truth, after he saw it with his own eyes in that experience that he had at sea. Is he like the wicked son, right? That we blunt his teeth, the one who says, what does this mean to you and not to him? Had he been there, he would not have been redeemed, right? We're going to read that in the Haggadah Saturday night. So I guess you could certainly make comparisons. Interesting. Yitzchak says, so if we seek justice or we seek retribution, which one is best? Well, justice is something that we should always be seeking, right? We're commanded to. Justice shall you pursue. But some would say that justice, tzedek, shall you pursue, means that when we pursue justice, we pursue it in a just manner. And retribution, be careful, right? Be careful. When we say retribution, and what we mean is that the wicked should be punished, and we should make sure that they're brought to justice, good. When we look at retribution as revenge and, sort of getting into a cycle of feud, of the family feud, the blood feud, that's very negative. And I read, actually on Monday, I was reading Rabbi Sacks's book, his commentaries on the Torah portion. Beautiful, beautiful Covenant and Conversation, I think it's called, or Lessons in Leadership is another one. But he was writing on this week's Torah portion, Tzav, which talks about the sacrifices. And Rabbi Sachs taught that, the sacrifices, what does God need our sacrifices for? What was the purpose of introducing the sacrificial system? The simple answer to this, I think offered by Maimonides, is that was the way that people worshipped. That was the basic form of religion that all humans engaged in the ancient world. And now that the Jews were going to, be shown and taught that there is one God in the world, and that this is how we serve Him. Not having a sacrificial system as part of that service would have just been too radical and too shocking. That's one view. But Rabbi Sachs subscribes to a different view, or an additional view, which is that humans are violent. Right? Violence is just part of the human. And what the sacrificial system came to say is that we're going to have a system of justice. Right, the family feud, the avenger of blood, which we see even in the Torah, the avenger of blood with respect to the manslaughterer. That's just human nature. When somebody in your family is hurt, and why in the case of the manslaughterer do we worry about the avenger of blood? Because in the case of the murderer, okay, the court is going to step in and issue a death penalty. But for a manslaughterer, it's a negligent homicide. The penalty for that is not the death penalty. And that sort of feuding system, the system of the family feuds, the blood feuds, was so prevalent in the ancient world, that we have to cut that off, right? And so here comes the Torah and its justice system, and it's almost like channeling that human urge to violence. Animals are not the same as humans. They are a lesser form. They're important. The Torah prohibits cruelty to animals, but we are allowed to eat animals, and we are allowed to sacrifice them when the temple is standing. And it's like that's a way to channel that urge to violence, because what we want to end is the system of feuds and revenge and retribution that just gets repeated generation after generation after generation, and which sadly we even still see in the world in certain cultures. But the world of the Torah is very much against retribution as a form of feud, bringing people to justice, to the justice system. That obviously is very important. Yosef, might it be proper to say that God is essentially loving, kind, and merciful, yet at times in His power of manifestation based on our merit shows wrath? Fascinating comment. I would say that God is equally loving, kind, and just, right? And those are forces that are balanced in each other. When we say that God is angry, now it's fair to say that because the Torah says that God is a jealous God, and God becomes angry, and said to Moses, I'm going to, destroy these people because of the way that they behave. But ascribing a human emotion, even via verses in the Torah, to the eternal and infinite and omnipresent, the Holy One, blessed be He, I think it's just the language of the Torah is helping us understand and relate to God. But we cannot pin human emotions on God. That just helps us understand our relationship with God. Likewise, it says that when we bring a sacrifice, there is a pleasing aroma. Are we really going to say that the smell of barbecue is pleasing to God the way that it's pleasing to us? No. And so Rashi teaches that the reason it's a pleasing aroma is because God commanded that we bring certain sacrifices, and then we did it, right? God is pleased whenever we follow God's commands, whether it involves an animal sacrifice or not. If God issues a commandment and we follow that commandment, that pleases God. Do we really bring pleasure to the Holy One? Blessed be He, the Eternal. In His humility, He has told us that yes, He has told us in the Torah that we can please or anger Him. which is an incredible act of humility. But perhaps a better way to understand that is that it helps us understand our relationship with God, that we could cause him pleasure or pain. But God is infinite and beyond that. So whatever, we have a relationship with God that God has invited us to have with God. But whatever the extent of God is, we cannot comprehend and don't attempt to. And so we understand that a lot of this language, the wrath of God, so to speak, is just to help us understand our relationship with God. Chaim in Florida, did I hear that right? Atypical relations is permitted? Does that not violate the prohibition of wasting seed? Asking for a friend. So elsewhere where we discuss this, the Gemara says that a man can overturn the table, and that is a euphemism for having relations in the atypical manner. One is, anal intercourse, but there's other ways to have, atypical relations, not only, the straightforward position for the purpose of having children. So everything between husband and wife that they want to do together is permitted to them. Wasting seed is a different matter, right? So if you complete the act in a manner that is wasting seed, it can be problematic. But so both things are true. We're not supposed to waste seed, and doing it in whatever manner they both enjoy together, who are married, is permitted to them. There's many more nuances and halachas associated with that, and that is beyond the scope of today's class. Sharon, for a text that is not to be studied, they sure are giving out a lot of the book's key teachings. Exactly. And so apparently it is to be studied. It's just if somebody is teaching that this is the Bible when it's not, that would be considered heretical. Norm says, I'm going to order a large print hardback Torah in English. Thank you for these videos. I can't turn away. Wonderful. Great to have you with us, Norm. And also there was a discussion in the comments about menus, koshering the kitchen. I don't know if just normal to kosher it or to kosher for Pesach and gefilte fish. So it sounds like there was a lively discussion going on. That's what I've got for us today. And with God's help, tomorrow, regular time, Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific.